I think the most important lesson I've learned is that you cannot defy your purpose. Your purpose is sort of written in stone, right? How you integrate that into your life, how you get there, how long it takes you to get there, it's all up to you. But you're going to have to confront your purpose. And so for some of us, we have to do that in a prison environment. And that's a better alternative than never confronting it and then getting to the end of your life and going, wow, I never did the thing I knew I felt in my heart I needed to do. And so to me, my biggest takeaway is that your purpose matters and you need to honor it and not to let your fear stop you from doing the thing that feels best for you, even if you don't know how that it's going to work out. Do it
And I
anyway.
think what happens when your worst fear becomes your reality? Hi, I'm Brent Cassity. Welcome to the Nightmare Success In and Out podcast, where we explore how to overcome your fears and nightmares and set yourself free. We're going to be exploring this topic with guys I was in Leavenworth with and others who survived their own nightmare. These stories can be inspiring, sometimes sad. There's some humor, but hopefully you can come away with a nugget of something that'll help you knock down some of the prisons you built up in your own mind. All right, welcome back. I'm our Success and Now. Listeners, this is where you come from. What happens when your worst fear becomes your reality? How do you adapt, survive, overcome, set yourself free? And folks, don't forget to follow, subscribe, share this thing out, like it up, comment. It helps the show, and I really, really appreciate it. So, who are we talking to today on Nightmare Success? Well, today's interview is about a man who walked into federal prison with a sentence and walked out with a soundtrack. My guest today is Jason Pears. Is it Pears or Pears?
Peers.
Pears. Okay, I said it
Yes.
right. I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
usually do that, Jason.
it's fine.
But he's
Happens
artistically
all the
known as
time.
Jason Made. Grew up in Fairhope, Alabama, shaped by gospel music and the Southern Church. But ambition mixed with financial pressure led to a 1.2 million PPP fraud case with a 30-month federal sentence. For most people, prison would silence the music. But inside federal prison camp Pensacola, Jason found something unexpected: a chapel piano, a spiral notebook, and a decision that this nightmare would not be the end of his story. Over the course of his sentence, he wrote more than 40 original songs, transforming pain, uncertainty, and the chaos of the First Step Act into art. Now he's out. He's releasing his debut EP, Go Lay Down, and sharing the very notebook that helped save his life. And I also want to give a shout out to John Warren and Brian Newton, who helped connect all of us together. So it's great that we're able to do that. Before we jump into this story, I want to give a shout out to Auto Plaza Direct, our show sponsor. You know, who likes spending a couple of weekends walking car lots looking for a car? Then you spend 4 or 5 hours at the dealership to buy a car. It's kind of like a root canal appointment. Well, there's a better way to take away all that pain and hassle getting a car. It's called Auto Plaza Direct. They're your personal car concierge. Just tell them the car you want, what you can pay, and they'll go find that car for you. They'll negotiate your best price. They also offer you warranties and financing. It's all full service. Go to autoplazadirect.com to get started with your personal car concierge. The new hassle-free way, the car buying experience you deserve. Auto Plaza Direct. Tell them Brent from Nightmare Success sent you. Folks, I want to share with you a powerful and moving new book you won't want to miss. My Name is Saffron. Voices, silenced, stifled, and taken away by author Saffron Gustafson. This isn't just a story. It's a journey through resilience, survival, and reclaiming your voice after being silenced for far too long. Saffron's story takes you inside the hidden struggles, the pain, and ultimately the triumph of refusing to be defined by circumstances. As Saffron was putting the finishing touches on her book, the prison she had just been released from, Federal Dublin FCI, was permanently closed because of sexual abuse of the women prisoners. If you've ever wondered what it takes to rise from the darkness of places, to find your truth, and to speak it boldly, this book will inspire you. Pick up your copy of My Name is Saffron today, available now on Amazon or wherever books are sold. Trust me, you'll be moved, challenged, and changed by her story. Jason Pears, how are you?
Doing pretty good. How you doing?
It's good to have you. Good to have you.
Good to be here.
So, man, you wrote a lot of music, in a spiral notebook.
Which is I was not expecting, but that's what happened.
I don't think you were expecting, but you know,
Yeah.
if you, I read your bio background, you were kind of all around music growing up in
Mhm.
Alabama. Kinda bring us back there, your
Yeah.
family life as a kid.
Yeah. So I grew up and am sitting right now in Fairhope, Alabama, which is, I mean, it's not a famous place, I wouldn't say, but it has kind of garnered some lore and of its own because it's a very small, quaint town on Mobile Bay, and people like to kind of vacation here and retire here and that sort of thing. But as a kid, most of my days were kind of like spent lazily walking around with my cousins and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I was probably the only kid in my little universe that could not be pulled away from a piano. And so
Who
that
taught you how to do a piano? Who taught you piano?
nobody, that's the
You
thing.
figured it out
Nobody.
yourself?
Yeah, yeah, you kind of, what happens is you show a little bit of interest, and then if you're in a church environment, people just sort of push you toward the piano, you know?
Yeah,
It doesn't happen so much now, but then, you would just be told like, "Oh, you should go and sit there with whoever's playing and just watch them." So,
yeah,
that's kinda what happened with me, and by the time I was 10 years old, I replaced the musician at the church, and I don't think she was very pleased about that, but that's what happened. And I started recording songs there, at the church. Like I would go, the pastor gave me the key to go into the church because he was like, you gotta, you just have to keep practicing to get better. And so I would do that. And I learned how to use the tape deck there. And I started overdubbing songs and writing songs then, all the way back then. And I was just kind of like, I just became known as that kid who can play the piano. So that's really where I got started at church. Uh, and that has been really, I think, the most powerful like seed for me, just being
yeah.
able to kind of do that sort of work there, where there are a bunch of people around you who encourage you to do it. Um, it's a lot of, because now it's like basically everybody I know goes who says, "Oh, I should have like stayed with the piano," and I'm like, "Yeah, you should have done it. It would
Yeah.
pay you dividends." Yeah.
So you spend a lot of time, you know, your grandmother, family,
Yeah.
how does life progress for you?
So so when I was about 16 or so, I went and auditioned for a record label in out of Nashville or near Nashville. I don't know exactly now, but they were kind of a subsidiary of Sony. I
Mhm.
ended up getting an offer and signed to like a development deal at the time, which I
And
didn't
you were 16
really.
years old at that time?
Yeah, at the
Wow.
time, which I didn't really pursue because I came back home and just didn't really record anything. It never really happened in that way because there was a sense that they were trying to make me record songs that I just like, I don't think that's
You
not
didn't think
for
that was
me.
you. Yeah.
So I started writing, I just kept writing my own stuff. And at some point, one of the people there kind of got in touch and was like, "So how are things going?" I was like, "Well, I've been writing songs," and I ended up just sending them some of the demo tapes that I made, and they were like, "Oh, these are good. Well, maybe you should just write songs for other people."
Yeah.
Um, and so eventually, I kind of delved into that world a little bit. I went to Los Angeles around 19 or so, and did some ghostwriting for people and did okay. Made some connections with that, but it never really clicked with me that music was. I don't know why. I can't even tell you why, but it never really clicked for me that music was the driving force in my life. I just
Mm,
could not see it in that way. I just thought, "Oh, this is something I can do easily, so, I'll just do it." Um,
yeah.
and that's I think maybe that's a lot of people's experience with whatever
Did
feels natural to them.
there was a and I can't remember where it is in your lifeline in your when you're young, but you were in a bad car accident
Oh, yeah.
that left you out of school for about a year, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's probably the thing that locked me into that kind of gave me a real sense of, being cloistered away because I was outside and I got run over by a car essentially. I was out
Mm,
there with my cousins playing around, and I was trying to cross the street, and a car comes down the hill, and they don't see me kind of crossing behind the ice cream truck,
mhm.
and so they they hit me. I go flying in the air. I kind of have this like weird out of body experience. I come to, I'm in the hospital. Um, I didn't I didn't have anything that was broken, but I had lots of kind of soft tissue injuries. And so I was out of school for the rest of the school year, and I was at home every day. And my mom went to the Goodwill, and she found like a one of those spinning organs, with the little colored clicker keys that
Yeah.
changes the. So she found one of those things that was probably like on its last legs, but she brought it home, and so every day I was there with that little organ, and I had a hymn book, and so I was trying to teach myself kind of like how to read the music,
Yeah.
because obviously I didn't know. But so the way I did it is I would sit there every day when the kids would go off to school. I would just kind of get on the organ, and I knew what the song was supposed to sound like. So I would just find the note, and then I would correlate that to the note I saw on the page. And then, I just kept doing that until I could like open a page and just kind of play what I saw. So I did that for, until school was back in and I was able to kind of like get around as well as I was before. And by the time that, I was kind of like, I was that kid, that, oh, he's like, he can really play that thing now. And I
Yeah.
don't even know how good I was, but to the other kids, I was all right.
But you were doing it and no one else was, so that made a
That's
difference.
exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got called on a lot to just kind of go here and there at different functions and sing songs and play piano for people, which did not feel great at the time. But my
Yeah.
mom was like, "Oh, you should do it." So she volunteered me a lot. And,
Yeah.
no matter how much you love to do something, if you're a kid, you don't want people wanting you to do it. It's
Mhm.
like, I know I'm good at it, but don't tell anybody. So, yeah. So that was that. That's kind of, I think that's the thing that sort of, at least that time gave me, um, it very much relates to the time I ended up spending in Pensacola in a way because I felt very much the same sense of like focus around music. Like, this is what am I going to do with this time that I've got? I'm not able to kind of go out and do
Mhm.
anything. So how am I going to spend my time?
Right.
Um,
Right. Because there
yeah,
was nothing else really for you to do, so you focused on that, but I'm
yeah,
sure it also helped you, on kinda self-learning it yourself, also helps
yeah,
you kinda with the notes and playing to be able to write and do
yeah.
songs that I don't know. I mean, that's probably not the normal way that you go about that, but I bet that is something creatively that helps you kinda open your mind to be able to figure things out
Mm,
as you're putting, lyrics to music to make it all work. So, you said you went out to LA, you did all these different
mm.
things. Where does that lead you?
Well, eventually, I left LA. At some point, um, I bounced back to Alabama. I bounced back to Orange County. I went to Orange County. I don't know what you know about LA, but I went way down to Mission Viejo,
Yeah,
and I stayed there for a while. And I was really just kind of submitting songs, that sort of thing. I didn't have like a um, anything specifically that I was doing. So I ended up moving back to Alabama. I don't know how many years later this was, but um, after I moved back to Alabama, I had this sense that, okay, well, I've got to like something's got to give. This is not gonna. This is not. I'm not
yeah.
gonna bounce around submitting songs here and there. So I've got to do something. I ended up going to DC, and I really enjoyed being in DC. I had like some personal, relationship problems that kind of made me focus on myself. So I ended up starting a business in DC, which was a bakery without a bakery. I had to rent kind of a commercial kitchen. So I
Now
did
how does a
that.
guy wait, Jason, wait. So how
Yeah.
does a guy go from being this music guy,
Mhm.
writing music, songs, into a bakery?
Uh, it's a great question. But part of the part of the why and the how is that even after all the time I'd spent in front of a piano, writing and singing with people, I just did not, for some reason, I just could not see myself giving into to it. I don't know. I was running away from it. I thought there's a way to make money in this world, and for me, it's not going to be making music because music is something I just love to do.
Yeah.
And so I was there in DC, and I was like, well, I mean, I do need to work. I have to have something to do. And so I started this little kind of baked goods thing, and it actually took off fairly quickly. Um,
Had you done that? Like, had you done it as a family? Like,
Not
baking
really,
wise?
not really. As a kid, I had as a fundraiser, like I had like made some no bake cheesecakes, that kind of thing, as a
Okay.
kid for church, and and those. I mean, those sold, but this was so long ago. This was just like something totally different. But what happened was is I was feeling pretty down on myself, there in DC, and I made some cupcakes for myself because I just wanted something. And a friend came over and was like, "Oh,
These are really good.
these are really good. You should try to sell these." And he said it, and I said, "Oh, maybe I could sell these." And I thought, well, I mean, I can't sell a dozen cupcakes. I mean, that's not going to make me any money. And I thought, well, I'll set up a website and we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
And I got this really random phone call one day from a lady who was organizing a charity function, and she was doing this charity. She was trying to get bakeries to donate cupcakes to raise money for the children's hospital. Okay, and
Okay.
you think, well, how hard can that be? You know, and I thought she must want 1,000 cupcakes. How many cupcakes does she want? And she's calling all these big bakeries, and they're not saying yes. And I said, okay, well, how many cupcakes do you need? And she goes, well, I really need, 10 dozen. And I thought, well, that's not very many
I can do
cupcakes. You
that.
mean you tell me these giant bakeries won't
Yeah.
give you the children's hospital? So I said, fine, I'll do it. Very long story short, I did it. It was a big hit. Because I was the only one who decided to, like, help, she ended up making my little baked goods company, like, this a major sponsor and put us on all of the children's hospital things, and,
Yeah.
and eventually the Kennedy Center reached out because they had a representative there, and they needed a new vendor at the Kennedy Center, and then, it just kinda turned into a thing. I was like, "Well, would you look at that?" Like, just the
Opportunity.
yeah, just an opportunity arose, and so I took that, and I was fine with that, and did that for a couple years, and kind of got burnt out of waking up at 4 in the morning and dealing with bakery stuff. And I ended up selling that business, and then I found myself back in Alabama. My mom had had a stroke, and I just thought I needed to be closer to. I just needed to be closer. Um, And so that's how I kind of decided to plant, more of just like plant more roots here because
Mhm.
I just figured that made more sense. And if
Mhm.
I needed to travel, if I decided to do something else, I would just do it. Um, which I eventually did. I kind of would bounce back to LA here and there if somebody had something they were working on, or if, somebody was doing some music stuff and I could have some fun with that, I would go. But I just got into real estate, which is how I kind of ended up, there in Pensacola at Camp Pensacola. Um,
Well, let's talk about how your nightmare landed on you, because
yeah.
from this point, from a guy that was writing music to having a bakery, you get into real estate. So how does this nightmare land on you?
Okay. So I was, I had a business partner who was who was kind of a long distance landlord, someone from California, but who owned property in Mobile, Alabama.
Okay.
And I was buying and renovating houses in Alabama. And, you know, yeah, man, that was going really well, and, things were really good, and we were finding houses, and we were doing these deals, and the pandemic came, right? And if you've ever kind of put together a team of contractors and subcontractors, you know that the worst thing you can do is, like, let them go away for a
Yeah, because
couple
they
of
go
months.
find other work.
You'll
Yeah,
never see them again.
right.
so
Yeah,
so the pandemic came, and of course, this opportunity for the PPP loans came up. I thought, what better? Wow, this will be great. We can keep these people on payroll. And I called up my business partner. I said, I think this is the right thing to do. This is what I'm going to do. I'm gonna do this PPP thing, and we're gonna make it happen. We'll just keep everybody going. The problem was like we had no idea. It's been a number of years now, but there was this sense of like we don't know what is going to happen. Like I don't know how long this is going to go on.
right.
Um, at the time, it felt kind of like one of those never-ending stories. I remember getting in line at the Home Depot, and where they had all these kind of only essential working orders and stuff, and there was a line, and they were only letting 10 people into a Home Depot. Do you know how big a Home Depot is? And
Yeah,
I remember
yeah.
thinking, "Is this the apocalypse? What is happening?" Like,
What it felt like. Yeah,
yeah, like what is happening? So I applied with all of this data from my flipping business, and lo and behold, I was approved for these PPP loans, 2 separate loans. Uh, I don't remember how long it was from the time I applied until the time those loans sort of were funded, but I got these loans, and, you know, I thought everything was going well. We actually ended up getting, I think we got 2 more properties, and we were in the middle of renovating a fairly large property that was gonna be kinda like like a really significant payday.
mhm.
And my business partner sort of went haywire. I don't know I honestly don't know to this day what happened, but he started getting really, squirrely around the business. And one day I had the FBI and the IRS show it to my house, and they're like, we'd like to
That
have
would
a
catch your
conversation.
attention. I mean, did
Yeah,
you
we'd
have
like,
any idea that that was like that the
I know.
FBI or the IRS could show up at your house?
No, no,
How did
no.
that happen? Like
I was
what
outside. I went outside to walk my dog.
yeah.
And a guy, raises his hands. Mr. Pierce. I say, good morning. He says, good morning. He's like, and then he introduced himself, and he's like, we'd like to, have a conversation with you. Can we, just like, and so we went inside, and they had a search warrant, and they wanted to see, the paperwork and all these other things, I mean, you understand how that goes. And it was very sort of it was a heady experience, because I just remember thinking, "Oh boy, well
Yeah,
this is gonna be a long road." I had that sort of feeling like, this is not looking good,
right. This isn't
and,
good.
this is not good. And the when they left, they were there for about 45 minutes, and before they left, one of the guys with the IRS goes, he points to I had a bottle of wine on the counter, and he's like, "If I were you," he said, "call your lawyer." He's like, "And open that bottle tonight." And
Wow.
that's exactly what I did. Uh, and at some point, I kind of just accepted that it was gonna be a protracted thing that went on, because it sort of did. It took there were months and months between that. I actually had gone and kind of, talked to a few attorneys, and the one was like, "Well, they haven't said anything. They give you that letter. What do you call it? The
Target
uh,
letter.
target letter.
Yeah.
They hadn't given me anything like that." And he's like, "Well, he's like, if you get a letter, then come back." So that's what happened eventually, months and months later, and I did, um, and then life got very sort of. Uh, I started to hear like a clock ticking, like not exactly knowing which way it was going to go, but obviously it had to. This was going to come to a head at some point. So, um,
Well, let me ask you something, Jason. Because a lot of people got caught up on this PPP
uh,
stuff or these loans. Did you guys think that you were doing anything that was out of the realm? Were you aggressively forecasting like what or
I
or
I took I part of the problem is that when you are
'Cause it was
like a
pretty loose,
yeah,
the whole
I'll give you
PPP
an
thing.
example. Like, part of it was that it was extremely easy. I mean, honestly, like, there were people out there I know who, just kinda took numbers out of thin air. In this case, it was like I was actually, like, just looking at what we had on the table, how long this project was gonna take, what
Right,
our previous things was, and yeah, and I essentially I forecasted, and when, when the indictment came, it was saying, "Well, oh, well, they have all these," they're saying payroll is this, but essentially that was contractor cost. Like, I mean, quite
right.
literally, it was like, this is what it costs to, like, pay these people. And
Mhm.
it was a lot of money. Um, and I would not, it'd be kind of weird to say like, oh, I have no idea what they're talking about. I know exactly what they're talking about. It's just that, um, this was the reality of the situation.
Yeah,
If you ask me, what the earnings were, what payroll was, this is what we expected to pay because these are the projects we had to complete. Um, and that certainly didn't happen because long before we could even, get down to that road, I had, the federal indictment in hand, and I was trying to find an attorney to deal with this situation. But part of part of the issue, and I think a lot of people experience this sort of, um, this bifurcated kind of world where you're being told that you did something,
mhm,
but kind of the difference between the thing you actually did and the thing that they're kind of telling the
mhm.
world that you did.
Right. They
And
they go out with a strong narrative that
yeah, and
has
it's like,
little
what?
bits and pieces of what you think is what the actual truth
Yeah,
and
it's like,
facts
I
are.
did
Right,
what? And that's not to say that I'm like without fault. I mean,
right.
the reality is like I mean, frankly, I just would not do it. I would have just let everything kind of fall apart.
Yeah,
I would have let everything fall apart, and I would have not attempted to like hold on to everything, as it
right,
was,
right.
and so that was my fault. It was my responsibility. I did the things, I signed the things, I sent the papers in, and so you have to pay the piper.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, so how long did all that last? When by the time when they showed up, Jason, to your house, the FBI guy and the IRS person told you to drink that wine and call an
um,
attorney,
um,
until you're standing being sentenced. Like, what was the time frame on that?
so it was about it's like about 2 years.
Yeah. Okay. So
Mhm.
it was a good
Yeah,
amount of time that you had to
yeah,
walk through purgatory
yeah.
and trying to figure out what this was
Yeah,
all
and I
going to
was
be and
trying to
how you
make
were
it
going to.
as fast as possible too, because
Yeah.
it's like at some point, you go through all of this sort of torturous, what about ifs, what about, and then why did I do this and why didn't I do
Right.
that? And at some point, you have to just come to terms with like, oh, I made mistakes, I made choices that led me here to this place, and although I would not do it again, I have to live this is the moment I'm in now, and I have to
Right.
kind of figure out what I'm gonna do now. And so at some point I was like, "Okay, like, we gotta figure out how this is gonna move forward because I can't let my life kind of exist in this space, um, where I'm
It's
just
a weird
waiting."
space.
Yeah, where I'm just
Yeah.
waiting.
Yeah.
Um,
Waiting and knowing that the light at the end of the tunnel is probably a train. So,
yeah, yeah,
so the
yeah.
so when you are standing there, I'm sure you probably, your attorneys and the AUSA had
Oh,
thrown out
yeah.
different things for plea. When you got that 30-month sentence, what
Hmm.
that day, what was going through your mind?
Well, um, it was actually for maybe not the reasons people would suspect, but it was actually a very emotional sort of moment, not the sentencing part, because
Mhm,
by the time you get there, your attorney's already sort of giving you all of this,
mhm,
like, hey, here's what's probably going to happen, right? Um, but you have all that, you have all of those people in the courtroom who've come on your behalf, if you've
right.
got people who come on your behalf.
Yeah.
And so I had people in the courtroom who from my community. Um, I co-founded a community choir way back in like
Mhm.
2016, A lot of people from that choir and from the community had showed up. And there was this moment where, people kind of get up and start sort of, being there for your character witness or whatever the
Hmm.
case is, give some background. And they're talking to the judge. And, very rarely do you get to hear people in your life sort of, just talk about you in this way.
It's like I
Uh,
always said it's like almost like being at your funeral and not being dead.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's exactly that. Yeah, it's like, how many times are you going to get people to hear people in their own words just sort of spontaneously talk about you and
What
what
you
your
mean to
life
them.
means to
Yeah.
them?
Yeah.
And so they did that, and it was, that was emotional for me because all of that happens before, the judge asks you if you want to say anything. So now you're like, oh, my mind just was going all over the place.
Yeah.
But they spoke, and he thanked them, and um, y- you know, I remember him saying he was, fairly impressed by you know, the outpouring that people showed. And that was nice. And
Mhm.
then the sentence came, and um it was not I don't think it took me aback. It was just sort of along the lines of my expectations. It wasn't
Yeah.
along the lines of my hope,
Yeah.
but it was it was not kind of like the end of the road.
Right.
This was
It's the
more
beginning of
waiting.
something new.
Yeah, it was more like, yeah, it's the beginning of something new, but it's also another thing because he's like, you're gonna get a letter in the mail and it's gonna tell you, you know, when to report and all that and where, and so now it's like another few months before you even know
Right.
what's happening. So that's the way I felt that day. I was a little bit, um detached, I think, probably from my feelings about it because I needed to be. I had other things to do. I had
Yeah.
to kind of make arrangements. You start to think like, okay, well, what's gonna happen with this and the
Right.
house?
I'm
And
going to be gone.
yeah, so that happened.
Well,
Yeah.
let's take a break there because when we get back, I want to talk about you walking in to Pensacola and
Mm.
how that world how you walked into that world and then what happened in that world where you
Yeah.
basically became this guy in the chapel and made these connections. So um, a lot of people don't like how they show up online. Many individuals think there's no hope when it comes to managing your reputation on Google. There's hope. It's called the Discoverability Company, and they can help you whether you're building a reputation from scratch or you're repairing your search results after a negative news story. Discoverability can also help you how you're portrayed on popular AI services like ChatGPT. To learn more, visit discoverability.co. It's not .com, it's .co. Listeners of Nightmare Success can take $100 off with coupon code Nightmare Success. The Nightmare Success podcast is sponsored by the White Collar Support Group, the world's first support group devoted to people navigating the white collar criminal justice system. I'm a member of the White Collar Support Group, and I can tell you this is a bunch of people who help each other through the criminal justice journey for free. Whether you're just starting your journey or you've made it through to the other side, this is great space for you. You can join us on Zoom Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. For more information, go to prisonist.org. It's prisonist.org. Okay, Jason. So you get the 30-month sentence.
Hmm.
You go and you wait for the letter and you're going to voluntarily surrender. Walk us
Yes.
into Pensacola.
Yeah, I got that letter that I was going to Pensacola, which for the record is about 45 or 50 minutes from Fairhope. So it's
Okay.
essentially like right down the street.
Yeah.
Uh, so the day came and I had someone drive me down there, and I got there and it was very anticlimactic. There was no fanfare. And in fact, when we got there, we pull up to the gate, and they stop you, the officer, because it's on a Navy base. They stop you there, and I say, "Well, I'm here to report
Yeah.
for a prison sentence," and the guy goes, "Well, we don't have your name down here to be reporting today."
Well, good.
Uh, yeah, I'm gonna want you to go check that again because if I turn around, it's like,
I guess
I
this
don't
was
know.
all a mistake.
Yeah, was it a dream? Yeah. So yeah, eventually they were like, just pull over there. They went and found somebody, and they had someone walk out and I said goodbye to the person who drove me, and yeah, and that my first impression was fairly like, "Oh, this is it."
Mhm,
The prison camp there is on a kind of a decommissioned military base,
mhm,
and it looks very much like a 1960s office park.
mhm.
Um, a lot of trees, very much like a summer camp
Okay.
for wayward children.
Yeah, there you go.
That's kind of what it felt like. Um, so I went through the whole, rigmarole with the search and
Yeah, they
giving my
prisonized you.
yeah, prisonage and all that. I mean, it was about as comfortable, I guess, as they could make it. It was not that I didn't really. It didn't leave me with any kind of terrible memories or anything.
Yeah.
The only interesting thing that happened is that one of the first interactions I had with a staff member um, was a guy by the name of Dr. Prophet, who's become kind of infamous due to a certain inmates talking about him a lot in the
Oh,
in the news. Uh, but he came by. He was like, I'm Dr. Prophet. I'm with the psychology department, and they're reading your pre-sentencing investigation report,
mhm.
and um, that investigation report kind of gave background on my musical stuff and the church
Yeah.
stuff and all that. And he says, "I see you. You're in music, and I think the chaplain here is gonna want to meet with you. Gonna want to like meet with you. They might. She can probably use you over there in the chapel." I thought,
Mhm.
okay, I don't at this point, I don't even know what he's talking about.
Yeah, I mean, your mind is probably a blur because this is your very you're just getting there.
I've been in this place for all of 50 minutes, maybe.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, whatever that means, chapel, chaplain, okay, fine. And then I go to the unit, to the building, and he's like, "Well, you're actually gonna have to go into quarantine because you don't have the COVID, the vaccination card." Well, I
Yeah.
didn't think to bring a vaccination card. So because I didn't have a vaccination card, I had to go into quarantine. And so I went into quarantine for 8 days.
Would that be
And
like the shoe?
they don't have a SHU in
Okay.
Pensacola, so what they did was they had an empty
For
building
those
and
listening down
yeah.
in, Costa Rica, that would mean a special housing unit.
Yes, yes, for the really, really, when they wanna
The
segregate you.
whole. Yeah.
Yeah, the whole uh, but they had an empty dormitory, so an entire
Okay.
building that had empty, which is where they have RDAP at Pensacola.
Okay.
But because of COVID, they didn't have anyone in that building, so they used it as quarantine, and there was one other person in that entire building with me, and then we eventually had one other person join us. But I was over there for days and days and days. They would come and drop off the meals at the door, and they would leave. We had no contact with anybody.
That's
we
a really
just
weird way to enter prison.
yeah, we just had the run of the building. They were like, don't hurt each other and don't hurt yourself, and that was that.
Wow.
And so that was fine. The day I got out of there, the
Now, let me ask you something though, Jason, because
yeah,
this is prisoner to prisoner here. But
yeah,
like when I got there, they eventually when I got back down to the camp, because Leavenworth had the penitentiary and then the camp, and they would do all your stuff like you were talking about getting into prison
hmm,
at the big place, and they put you in this, holding place for a while, making you think that that might be the place you're gonna be forever.
yes,
Because what are you gonna say? "I'm not supposed to be here," but then they do take you down to the camp, and then they give you your stuff, like, they give you, your bedding and
mhm,
your 3 uniforms and 3 T-shirts and your
yeah.
3 did they do all that for you?
Not then, not
Not then.
before.
So you're in
Because
quarantine and really haven't been given
no,
prisoner stuff.
no, you're in quarantine. You haven't been given prisoner stuff. You've got you don't have on the uniform because you don't get that. They give you whatever they have at the um
Yeah,
like
when you go
yeah, when
through.
you got there,
Yeah,
yeah. So
yeah.
you just have that and like a couple of things like that. They give you a blanket and stuff, but
Okay.
Um, that was it. So for the first 8 days or so, that was all I had. And then when I left quarantine was when I went to the laundry to go pick up
Got it.
um, laundry, and that was the day. So, um, the day
So
I went to
in this time period, this would have been a 23, so you're it's not like it's locked down anymore.
they weren't locked down, but they were testing and quarantining you if
Right,
you were
so
to
there
be
were still
tested.
some restrictions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, um, the day I went to laundry, I show up at laundry and it's this is the first time I'm really kinda interacting with everybody else on the
Mhm.
camp. It's me, one of the guys I was in quarantine with, and the most famous of the, Pensacola residents, Mr. Chrisley.
Yeah.
There that's and so we
Todd
kind of like
Chrisley. Yeah.
we kind of arrived at at the same time. He arrived that day that I got out of quarantine.
Okay.
Yeah. And so we would meet again once I got to the chapel.
Okay, so let's talk about how when you go into this environment, a world that you never thought you were gonna be in, Jason, did you have, like, any thoughts in your mind, like, how I'm gonna tackle this? Like, this is I'm not gonna be here for a week or a day, or
Yeah.
I'm gonna be here for a while. Were you thinking about as you were being quarantined and such, like, "All right, I'm heading into this."
Mm.
What
Um,
how was your mind set with that? And did you have strategies walking into it? Or was it just an open-ended, "Here I am"?
I was fairly relaxed about sort of my fate. Like I
Mhm.
was here,
Yeah.
right? So I just made up in my mind that I'm going to find something to do with this time. I'm going to make the most of it.
Mhm.
Don't
That's a
know what that
mindset.
means. I don't know what that means. I have no
Yeah.
idea what that looks like day to day, but I'm not gonna leave here the same way that I came in.
Yeah.
However whatever that means. Um, and I was determined to figure out what that was, but for the first while, the first few weeks actually, while everybody else was being assigned jobs and you're going to here, you're going there, for some reason they overlooked me all this time. I didn't get assigned a job. And I was just left to kind of go to the library and pick up books, and I would sit on my little bunk at the very back of the dormitory where I
Mhm.
could see out, and I would just read books all day, every day. And um, and I didn't really feel, I don't know, I just kinda I think it gave me some time to acclimate really to the environment. And then one day, one of the guys came and tapped on the bunk and said, "Hey, the chaplain wants to meet you."
Mm.
And this was maybe about 5 or 6. It was like after the count, it was and, "The chaplain wants to meet you." I said, "Okay." And so I, put on my uniform and, I went next door to the where the chapel was. I didn't know it was there. I didn't even know where the chapel was. And there they were, she was there, Chaplain Dixon was there, and there were a couple of other guys there, just kind of talking, and it felt very familiar to me in a way because here they are in this
Yeah.
chapel,
Something
and
you've grown up with.
it just felt oddly familiar because I was like, this does not, it does look like a prison environment. And there was a piano there, and I went like I've always done. I just went to the piano. I think she was like having a conversation with someone, and it was kind of a lighthearted thing I could tell. And yeah, people were just chatting, and I sat down at the piano and I just started to play.
Mhm.
Um, I think Todd was in there that day. He was there, I think, and a couple of the other guys, Navarro, Trevor was there, and I just started to play a song. I probably ended up on Amazing Grace, and at some point, the chaplain says, "I want you to," she says, "I want you to go with me." She says, she's like, "I'm gonna give you a job over here
That was it.
in the chapel." And that was kind of the very beginning of a light bulb moment for me,
Mm.
where I thought, okay, you know, I mean, I don't spend a lot of time talking to this guy, but just had this feeling that I had spent my entire life fighting my way away from this moment, right? Like,
Mhm.
I
Pushing
quite
pushing it
literally
away.
yeah,
Yeah.
I quite literally grew up at a church piano, right? And that
Mhm.
was the thing that was, like it was like a driving force, and somehow, out of all my choices and all the decisions and all of the going here and going there, I end up
In
at a
front of a
church
piano
in front of a piano,
and
except
in
this
prison.
time, I can't get away from it. Except this time, it's going to be the thing that defines the time my life.
Mhm.
And that's exactly what happened. I sat there at that piano that day and thought, "Oh, okay, I have an idea about what this time is gonna look like for me."
Mhm.
Um, and so it began.
So where did you get the spiral notebook to write all these songs?
Okay. Yeah. I was sitting at the piano another night, and there were a couple of clerks there, Trevor and, Navarro, who had been there long before I got there, and Trevor was like he was playing the piano and singing songs, and Navarro was playing drums, and they were really great, and I was actually, super happy to have these kinda musical
Yeah.
sounding boards, and I was at the piano, and we were just talking about something, and was singing something, and I was like, I I just started singing out loud, and, I was like, "I think I'm gonna just, like, start writing songs," and was writing on little pieces of paper, and Navarro says, he's like, "No, no, no," and he brought me a notebook, and when he brought me the notebook, I've got it here, actually. He brought me the notebook, and I said, "I'm gonna try to fill this up with songs,
Mm.
and maybe by the time I get to the end, it'll be time for me to go home."
Wow. Yeah.
And so he gave it to me, and I carried that I literally took the notebook everywhere I went. I would write on benches, I would take it to, like, you're not supposed to take anything in there. I mean, everywhere I went, I had it with me so that I could, if I had some idea, I could jot it down. Um, and I mean, I quite literally filled it up. Um,
With songs.
yeah, I
Yeah.
wrote and I wrote and I wrote, and it was such a obviously, nobody would want to go there to have that kind of experience, but it was so transformative that it's almost impossible to see myself without that experience. Like, what would my artistic life be? What would my creative self be? What would my kind of, like, inner
Mhm.
personhood be without that time? Because I had 14 months, 16 months to really just kind of, um, like, open these pages up and
Mhm.
start putting pen to paper, and trying to figure out why I spent so much of my life running from the thing that comes most naturally to me. Um, and so I had that time, and I wouldn't do it again, but I really wouldn't trade it.
What
I
did these
wouldn't trade
guys
it.
think that were around you and you writing this? Like, what was the
That's a good question. But I think there was a sense, and I hate to speak for them, and hopefully when I'll talk to them after this, and hopefully I didn't put words in your mouth, but I think that they would say that they felt something sort of special happening as well.
uh
Because there would be times where Trevor would get on the piano, and I'd say, just play something.
Yeah.
And he'd start playing something, and I'd just start singing something, and I'd have an idea, and I'd get my notebook out, and I'd start writing. And by the time he'd be done, I would be done, and he'd go, "I can't believe," he's like, "What? Who are you?"
Well, this all is kinda reminding me. I had Divine G on, a while back, and he was portrayed in the movie Sing Sing,
Mm,
and they created, this theater group,
mm,
and it was really I mean, a lot of the guys that are in the movie are actually, inmates or past inmates that are in that movie, and it it's fascinating how things like that can really bond people
yes,
in ways
yes,
that you don't normally bond because you're not going anywhere. You know, it's not like, "Oh, I'll
Yeah.
see you guys next week." No, we're
Right.
here.
Yeah. I'll see you. Yeah.
24/7, we're here.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you lock in on something like that, you'd been around music your whole life, but
Yeah.
this was some kind of transformation that happened, like, this is
Definitely different.
this is such a
Definitely
deeper
different.
soul searching moment of, "This is who I am, and this is why I do it."
And also, you have to remember too, like everyone who's there is there not at the by like they didn't decide to come there.
Right.
Everyone there is trying to figure out their life
Yeah.
as well. So I'm
Right.
there, and certainly we're all the main characters in our own lives.
Exactly.
But there's Trevor, who is an incredible singer,
Mhm.
incredible, honestly. Uh, you've got Navarro, who, for some, I don't know how, but has taught himself to play drums in a prison environment, was teaching himself piano, like honestly, in real
Mhm.
time. And it was amazing to kind of we would play church services. I mean, we weren't just there, l- lounging around.
Right,
We actually
right.
did something. So, we got put to work. So, everybody, all these different groups had services. If they needed music, Trevor would play for these different music services, and I would like hook up the keyboard and do auxiliary keys. So I give him some strings and some pads. So we had like our own little worship group happening.
Yeah.
And it sounds like something out of a movie because it felt kind of like something out of a movie.
Mhm.
I wouldn't you If you had told me that the environment would be that like what it was, and that it would be so supportive, and I'd
Yeah.
have these people around me who were, even without them knowing it, inspiring me to just kind of like show up and you know eh, whatever you're going to do, you need to just like make something of the time here, because nobody's going to do it for you. Like, you go into a prison, nobody there generally is going to force you to do anything
Yeah.
that's going to be beneficial to you when you leave.
Right.
So it's all up to you. It's this like self-directed curriculum in a way.
Yeah.
It's like, this is your
Well, I think
school.
it's
Yeah.
really good, advice because, this goes into 1,400 prisons, the show on,
Right.
the Dovo platform, and, you know, a lot of people think, "Well, I'll just do my time, and then I'll figure it out when I get out." You
Mhm.
gotta start figuring it out while you're in, and don't lose yourself in that environment.
Yeah.
Keep being yourself regardless of the situation, because then you can fall into whatever that weird prison environment was. I always say on the show that I was worried about turning into Prison Brent. I didn't know what Prison Brent was. I just didn't
You
wanna
just
do
didn't want to
that.
be a.
Yeah. Whatever Prison Brent was didn't sound good to me, but
Mm,
I do think it's important, and what you're talking about, you guys kinda created a nucleus, and that was kind of, in a way, your
yeah.
escape from
Oh
this
man.
strangeness that was around you. Let's talk about that a little bit, because in the midst of all this, Jason, you've got all this uncertainty going on. When are you getting out? Like, usually you have pretty certain, they give you your date and you get out. But
Wow.
with the First Step Act, and how it was being implemented and who was going where and how it was happening, how did that affect you?
Uh, well, I just could not get a straight answer about when. I mean, honestly, it was one of these things when we
Just
would
a
sit
moving
around.
target.
Yeah, we would sit around in the evenings and just kind of, you know, have these kind of group discussions. We had our own little round table there. Uh, and I mean, I couldn't figure out when I was supposed to go home. We would have, you've got mathematicians doing all this. Oh, you came in on this day, your
Yeah, yeah,
sentence is this, and you add this and subtract this and multiply and carry
yeah.
it. But, and then you was like, well, I should be going back.
Yeah, I
And
should be out of here. I should
I
have
should be
been
out of
here
I should have been out of
2
here
months
2 months
ago.
ago. Yeah. Right. And then, but it didn't happen that way. And so it does have a bit of a psychological sort of thing, but you kind of have to put it in the back of your mind and remind yourself that all you can do is what you can do where you are.
Yeah,
And I didn't have any control over what the staff did. I didn't have a control over kind of what the date said. I could bring it to someone's attention. I could write those cop outs. Whether they read them or not, I have no idea.
right.
Um, but I did a lot of inner searching, and I did a lot of inner work, and I had lots of incredible discussions, and I met some great people who
Mhm.
were quite literally instrumental in me rebuilding my life. And not to say like, oh, I'm gonna go home and I'm not gonna have anything. No, it's not that. It's like rebuilding a sense of self after
Yeah.
going through all of this sort of breaking down of yourself. How did I end up here? My life is not doesn't look like what I want it to look like. Um, but then you look around when you're in this environment, and I'm sure we can all find people in our lives, no matter if we're in prison or not, who are exemplifying steadfastness, perseverance, all these things. You just
Yeah.
have to look for them. And so
Yeah.
I was there in a prison environment with these guys who I mentioned. There was Melvin Williams who had been, who had been working in the chapel for I think his entire time there, who was like just like a riot to talk to. He's hilarious and but also very sort of direct and to the point and kind of gave me a couple kicks in the pants, like, you're gonna be fine, it's gonna be all right. And of course, Todd Chrisley is, if you know anything about him, and I didn't know anything about him, but um, he certainly had lots of advice about what, you know, like what I could do where I was to just like make a real plan for what I was gonna do when I left, for what I was gonna do with this music and how I was gonna kind of push forward through all that stuff. So
He kind of Todd kind of mentored you a little bit about
yeah.
how to pole vault out of there.
Well, it was I would go a little further,
Okay.
and I'm sure he would enjoy me saying that. I go a little further and say that he was actually very um he was an instrumental person in me continuing to kind of press my way through the music because I would, like everything else, you kind of, you get a little bit lost sometimes, even though this is your focus. He'd go and he's like, I heard that thing you were playing in there. He's like, you should go back and like finish that. That's really good.
He was
And
keeping you on course.
I go, yeah,
Yeah.
you're not wrong. And so
Yeah.
I would,
That's
and
great.
that was, that just little things like that are super helpful, but also very helpful when you've got people who don't really have anything to gain by sort of encouraging you other than to see you kind of do the thing you should be doing.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot to that too, Jason. I think that when you're in an environment like that, it feels good to be able to give back or be
Yeah.
helpful in such an ugly
Yeah.
place. You know,
Yeah.
you've got these CEOs that most of them aren't happy and most of them don't like their job. And so they take it,
Right.
use their power and whatever else to make life miserable because they're miserable. So if you can somehow help somebody in that environment,
Feels
it
good.
does make you feel good because
Mhm.
and I and I think this thing that you guys had all together, you were helping each other. And that's
Yes.
so when you finally get to the point where you're going back and forth, you're not sure where you're getting out. What's your thoughts about getting out?
Well, I
Because you've
was
got a big
very
spire, you got a big book now of
yeah, I got
40
this notebook.
songs.
I was like, well, I mean, there does comes that moment where you've been making all these plans and it happens in prison a lot.
Yeah.
You sort of talk up the plan, you do it a
Yeah.
lot because there's really not much else to do. And then you realize, okay, now I have an actual date in hand. So let's say I have an actual date in hand. All of the pieces are working together now. It's real. And now all the stuff I've been saying and planning and writing in this notebook, I've got to do something with.
Right.
And so there becomes this a bit of this like kind of anxiousness
Anxiety.
about,
Yeah.
oh boy, I've been talking a big game. Like, am I gonna be able to get out of here? And like, can I like turn my world, into some massive thing, but can I can I be focused? Can I be at peace? Can I have joy?
Mhm.
All of that kind of comes to the front. And so that's what I was thinking, like, okay, how can I do the thing I said I'm going to do?
Mhm.
How can I pursue the thing I said I'm going to pursue without doing the thing which I've been so good at, which is deflecting from what I know need to do the thing that I think is like the low hanging fruit of like financial success or, admiration from people around me, because I was able to do this and do that. And, oh, I own these properties and, all that kind of stuff. Like,
Yeah.
how can I just show up as myself in this world and be fine with that, regardless of what it may look like from an outside perspective? So
Yeah,
that's what
that's
was on my
interesting,
mind.
because that's and success can be intoxicating too,
Hmm.
in financial parts of things.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
Sean Mueller was on a few weeks back, and he was a very, very successful hedge fund manager,
Mm.
and he said that his whole identity, he believed, was that, people wanted to be around him, people wanted to go to, basketball
Yeah.
games and sporting events because he was that, and he didn't realize that people might have just liked him, and there were a lot of people that just wanted to be
Right.
around him because he was a hedge fund manager. They would put his, but
Yeah.
his whole identity was locked up in that, and he made this whole transformation realization
Mhm.
while he was in prison that, no, I can just be Sean.
Yourself, and people will like you
Right.
there. Yeah, it is a bit of an amazing process to go through, and I don't want anyone to have to go to prison. But if you had to go, there's something I think that's possible, and it may be simpler for people who are in that environment to have this kind of realization because you lose so much of the other feedback from the world. You're there, there's not a lot coming at you, only from the outside.
Yeah.
Um, so it's really just you and how you're relating to your environment. And so then you start to go, oh, these people, I mean, I don't have all that stuff. I'm not, flying first class here and there. I'm not driving this or that. I'm just having conversation and people seem to like to talk to me and and it makes you go, oh, I don't really need, nor do I actually desire that stuff.
Yeah.
That's not to say that you don't really want, like, you don't want a nice car or something, fine.
Right.
But do you want 6 nice cars? Do you
Right.
want, like, do you need, you kind of
Right.
start to go, wait a minute, what do I actually care about? I
Yeah.
don't care about
What is my passion? What makes me
what is the
happy?
passion?
Right.
What is the passion? And the passion is, can I make the thing that matters to me? Can I was talking to John about this the other I had
Mhm.
this realization about writing music, and I thought, how is it that I can, like, write a song? So when someone's asking me, "What does it feel like to write a song?"
Mhm.
I said, "Well, I'm writing the song because I can hear the song, right? Like, I know the melody, I know the words, how they should come together. It's sort of like I'm pulling like, there are pieces that need to be put together, but I'm doing that in real time." So,
Mhm.
but the only reason I can hear the song in my head is because it already exists somewhere.
Right.
If it doesn't exist, how could I
How do
know
you
where it
make it?
goes?
Right.
Right. So there is a part of me which is connected to something. My job, the thing that makes me happiest is taking all these pieces that come from wherever they come from
Mhm.
and putting them together in a way that not only I can hear them, but a way that you can hear them.
And
That's
experience it.
my Yeah,
Yeah.
that's my job. That's my passion. That's the thing that matters to me. If that leads me to a gazillion dollars, fantastic.
Right.
If it leads me to $100,000, fantastic. If it leads me to a roof over my head, food on my table, great friends, fantastic. All of that is the same. It doesn't matter. There's no difference between those happiness levels.
Well, I love it because, I mean, and you're doing it. You're bringing things. I'm gonna
Yeah.
see if I can bring in, your songs here. I don't if I mess this up, it'll okay, sure. Okay. Okay, looks like which one do you wanna just
Well,
lift it up,
that's so
no dry eyes.
that's the most recent
Which
song,
one?
Lift It Up.
Okay, let me pull that one.
Mm. This is like ambient folk
Yeah,
pop music.
tell me what's this song about, Lift It Up?
So the song is about what it feels like to love somebody, to care about somebody so much so that you're sort of declaring to them that you'll love them even when you like leave this plane of existence. Like even then, I'll never give up on you. Even when I'm no longer around, I'll never give up on you.
I like that.
That's the song.
I know that I seem really far
Can you hear that, Jason?
Yeah, I can.
And I try so hard, but I don't know what to say. There's something you should know, and it will last eternally. I'm gonna love you. I'm gonna love you. I'm gonna love you for the rest of my days. I'm gonna wrap my arms around you. I'm gonna surround you. Oh, I wanna confound you. It's all in me.
All right. Get a little
Very
piece
good.
of
Thank
that.
you. Thanks for playing that. I haven't listened
That's
to it in a couple weeks.
it's great. I
Yeah.
really like the music is so, like, unique. I was
Mm,
listening to it, last night, and I thought I haven't heard anything quite like it. It's got so many
good.
different, like, layers to it. It's
Good.
very cool, very cool. It's
Yeah,
something
that
you can just kinda listen. It's very relaxing.
I'm glad you're saying that. There's a song coming out next on the 20th called Read Your Mind, which is the next single on this. And the whole idea about this collection of songs, there are 5 songs. The whole idea, the reason the project is called Go Lay Down is because I kind of want people to take a moment and to just kind of sit with their own feelings, their own thoughts and ideas, and just kind of let the world kind of drift away a little bit.
Mhm.
So hopefully people will put the product on, the whole thing and just let it play and give themselves. I think it's
Yeah,
like
kinda gives you peace.
it's about 22 minutes. The whole thing will be
Yeah.
about 22 minutes. And that's 22 minutes of reflection,
Yeah, I
which is
love it.
good.
I love
Yeah.
it. So, I mean, Jason, you haven't been out for very long. Um,
Yeah.
what do you think's your biggest takeaway from all of it that you went through?
Oh boy. I think the most important lesson I've learned is that you cannot defy your purpose.
Mm,
Your purpose is sort of written in stone, right? How you integrate that into your life, how you get there, how long it takes you to get there, it's all up to you.
mm,
But you're going to have to confront your purpose. And so for some of us, we have to do that in a prison environment.
mhm,
And that's that's a better alternative than never confronting it and then getting to the end of your life and going, wow, I never did the thing I knew I felt in my heart I needed to do. And
mhm,
so to me, my biggest takeaway is that your purpose matters and you need to honor it and not to let your fear stop you from doing the thing that feels best for you, even if you don't know how that it's going to work out. Do it
and
anyway.
I think that's a really strong takeaway because I think if we dig deeper into that, there's so many people, Jason, we talk about being in prison or out of prison.
Mhm.
What I notice is that there's a lot of people when you get out of prison that are also institutionalized because of what
Mm,
you just said, the fear. They stay in
yeah.
a bad job, a bad marriage, they've had a health crisis, they've had a bad childhood, they have had all these different things. And so they've stayed in a very ugly place that they don't want to be because it's familiar to them. And
Mm,
they know maybe that they need to step out, that purpose is over there, but they're fearful to step in because it's the unknown. But what you just said, you have to you just have to bite that off and
do
step
it.
into it because it is what you're supposed to do, and you'll feel so much better if you just start
Yes.
stepping towards it. Yeah.
Yes.
I
It
I
will
like
hunt
it.
it will hunt you down.
It will
If
hunt
you
you
don't,
down.
it will
It
hunt you
hunted, it
down.
hunted, it hunted Jason down all the
Hey,
way to the chapel in
hey,
prison.
man, it found me. I was there in that chapel, and I was there in that chapel thinking, how, how, how,
Yeah,
how could I end up here when I tried so hard to
yeah,
not end up here? And I mean,
yeah,
not in prison, but in front of a piano at the
yeah, in a
church. Like,
chapel.
I just was, it's just like, oh,
Yeah.
here I
You
am
went to
again.
bakery, you went to real estate, and then there you were again at Pensacola in front of a piano writing
Right,
40
like,
songs. It
yeah.
becomes the soundtrack of a lot of emotions, but it's so, like, peaceful and deep. I
Mm.
it's I listen to music. My family says I'm stuck in the '70s because that's what
Okay,
I can listen to because
that's fine.
I can put it
We
on.
don't
It's one
mind.
of
We
my
don't mind the 70s.
but
That's fine.
I do I love music that's unique, and your music's really unique, and um, so if people wanna go to your website is jasonmade.music,
Music.com. Oh, yeah, that
um,
one too. I
and .com. Yeah,
Yeah,
jasonmade.com and jasonmade.music. Um, the the interactive chapel notebook, is that where do you find that?
that's at jasonmade.music.
Okay.
Mhm. You can
And
flip through the
then
pages there.
your EP comes out April 10th,
April 10th.
and you can go get certain things that are streaming, like Saltwater
Yeah.
Pool's really good.
Yeah, there's some other stuff that's out there now. So there's a previous set of songs. This set of songs will come out officially. The entire project will be out on the 10th of April. And then of course, I've got a full notebook of songs. So there are plenty
Right.
of things scheduled to come. So
Well,
go and
man,
follow me on Apple Music or Spotify or wherever you listen to music
and
under Jason
then
Made.
Jason, if people wanna follow you, like, on Instagram or whatever, where would they
Jason
go?
Made Music. Any of
Gotcha.
those, any the handles Jason Made Music on everything.
Jason Made Music's everything. Great. That's
Mhm.
easy. I love it. And I think you're gonna go do some big stuff because you have the fuel in your tank now knowing that this has been your
Yeah.
purpose all along, but now
Yeah.
and now you're armed with 40 songs, and probably
Right.
create more.
Got a
Uh,
good runway.
you've got a great
Yeah.
runway, and I'm just excited for you. Um,
I appreciate it.
it's a great it's just great. I love it when people just go jump out into the deep end and do what they're supposed to do, and it all starts happening. It's really, really
Yeah.
cool. We'll have to have a follow-up one in a year or so when you're
Yeah.
famous and we're
Let's
going to
do
the
it. Yeah,
Grammys.
let's do it. Let's do it. We'll have a party.
That's a big party.
Yeah, big
Um,
party.
and I wanna give a shout out to Homestead Financial who lets me use this, podcast room and all the fancy cameras and lights. If you got home mortgage needs out there, Greg Aftiev is your guy. He knows all that stuff. Hey, and if you got time and you're rolling around looking for Jason's music, go ahead and get my book, Nightmare Success, Loyalty Betrayal, Life Behind Bars, Adapting, Finally Breaking Free. If you got time, I know it's a hassle, but
Do that.
reviews on Apple, they do great. I
Yeah.
love to read them. If you want to know what I'm doing, go to brentcassity.com. I spell it wrong. I spell it with a TY and not a DY. As I used to say to my people when I was writing my emails back and forth from Leavenworth, stay strong. I'll do the same. Jason Pears made. I love it, man. I'm going to be looking
Thank
for
you.
you out
I
there.
appreciate it. Thank you
Be
very
listening
much.
to your music.
Thank you.
All right. Nightmare Success in and out.